welcome to Cleveland, Tennessee. We're here at the Taylor Springs, and last week we were up at Cherokee, North Carolina. You might have watched the Battle of Hanging Dog and about how the Confederate Captain Stephen Whitaker led the charge to run the Yankees out of Cherokee County a month after the Civil War, but they didn't know it was over with. But Stephen Whitaker actually had a brother-in-law whose name was Andrew Taylor. And Andrew Taylor is known as the first citizen of Cleveland. He was the first white to come in here back early 1800s. He had married an Indian girl and they lived up at Citico. And they decided to come here, and it was really a great business decision because back in that day there were two major trading paths crossed very near this area. One of them is about where Inman Street, Waterville Highway, it's actually Highway 64, crosses the east and west trading path. And the north and south trading path would have been about what is Lee Highway today through Cleveland. So here he was at this major crossroads, and he set up a trading post. And of course, the thing that caused him to build his house just a few hundred feet from here, of course, it was a really nice spring that was coming out of the ground. Here's the spring house that's coming out here. It's all been restored now. It was lost for decades because there was actually a building here that had built on top of it, and you could go down in the basement, and a few people knew that if you pick up a lid you could actually see Taylor Spring still there. All that's gone in recent years has been restored to a little Taylor Spring Park. Taylor built up a really thriving place here. It's called Taylor's Place. It's about a half-mile square, and the way he did that is the Treaty of New Echota had given the Cherokee the right to claim land and register it, and if they didn't want to go on the removal that was coming up soon, they could have their own reservation. And their own reservation, it would be the equivalent of my place today would be my reservation, or your place would be your reservation. It's just private property that you could claim, and you didn't have to go west. And Andrew Taylor couldn't own it, but his wife could, who was a Cherokee. So this was his reservation for a while, but of course you know the rest of the story. The federal government reneged on that Treaty of New Echota after just a few years and said all Cherokee have to move west. And eventually Andrew Taylor, after building up a thriving place here in the crossroads, I think he had a saloon, he had trading posts, he had the equivalent of hotels, and there are all kinds of buildings here in about a half-mile square, which is today what we call the old town of Cleveland. So Andrew Taylor, though, he had a really shady character. There was all kinds of things, if you read the story of his life, that he was just had a morality problem. In fact, that made me often wonder, too, the reason he married the Cherokee woman was completely a business decision instead of anything to do with love, because she could own this property. But after he lost it, actually, for years he fought the federal government and was persistent enough in his lawsuits that he won a settlement. And the federal government gave him the money back for the property, and it was an exorbitant amount. In today's standards, it would be the equivalent of over $600,000. But Andrew Taylor got his money, and he never made it home. Maybe somebody killed him and robbed him of his money, but the trending thought is that he took his money and run, and he left his family and kids and everybody else and disappeared with the money. Maybe buried today in a grave somewhere with a pseudonym on the stone and just disappeared into history like that. The people of Taylor's Place, though, when they decided to name the town, they decided they didn't want to be Taylor's Place anymore. So they decided, got together and said, let's name the town after one of our heroes from across the state line over here. They named it after Benjamin Cleveland, who was one of the heroes of Kings Mountain in the Revolutionary War. And it's just kind of an unfolding drama that Cleveland over the years took its name after somebody like a hero of the Revolutionary War and rejected to be called Taylor's Place. You can read the story of his life and you can see what I'm talking about, but To me, the proverb jumps out. I believe it's Proverbs chapter 22. It says, a good name is rather to be chosen than riches. And Andrew Taylor, he lived it in reverse. He destroyed his name for the riches. But the town's grown to what you see today, from a little trading post long, long ago in the early 1800s to a population here in Bradley County now to well over 100,000 people. That's the way towns go. Everything's got a history, don't it? Thanks for joining us here on the Weekly Word. And remember, a good name is better to be chosen than all the riches in the world. Take care of protecting your name. See you next week.